Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for November 13th, 2024. Coming up, we had Klay Thompson back in the Bay for NBA Cup opening night for group play. We had Joel Embiid back on the court. We got Trey Kerby, who went to the Bay. We got a big night. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Es. Good morning, Trey Kerby. You're live at Chase Center. We're recording this right after the Warriors beat the Mavericks in Klay Thompson's return game, thanks to a crazy Steph Curry fourth quarter. And we'll get to the game. But, Trey, you were in the building. It was obviously an emotional night for everyone. We saw the Captain Klay hats everywhere, the tribute video. What was it like in the house?
If I were going to describe it, Dave, I would have to say it was honestly a festive atmosphere here in the Bay. Klay coming back, the Warriors really pulled out all the stops to make him feel welcome, to kind of honor his place as a legacy player here with the Warriors. They wanted it to be an inviting atmosphere for Warriors fans to celebrate Klay Thompson's career, his accomplishments, and for Klay to feel good about coming back to the Bay. So, yeah, you mentioned the captain's hats. I've never seen better fan participation when it comes to an arena giveaway. I haven't seen that many.
There was a guy courtside wearing a hat that wasn't a captain's hat, and it stood out. It stood out to me.
That's just rude.
Look, there were some other hats around here, no doubt about it, but I saw people putting a captain hat on top of a regular hat. Usually you don't like a hat on a hat, Dave, but in this scenario, I was loving it. Great fan participation. It was really cool. The Warriors, when Klay arrived, they had hundreds of employees in their captain's hats, really ready to salute Klay, to thank him for his time here in the Bay. And then we came out. Introduction was really, really cool. They did the video tribute before the game even started. Before we even got to starting lineups, Klay was trying to play it cool, man. He was trying to avoid the media, it felt like, all day long. But between the salute in the hallway and the bowels of the arena and then the video tribute, like the guy you could tell was touched by everything. Then we got into the game and we got Steph versus Klay, the very first possession. It was awesome.
Yeah.
He was bouncing around the whole last 24 hours, kind of being like, oh, it's just a regular season game. It's not a big deal. And I love that the Warriors decided to do the tribute video out the gate. Like, let's just get it done with. Let's not do it in a timeout or first quarter or whatever. Let's just do it and then get back to the basketball.
Well, it's good strategy if you're hoping that his emotions are going to get the best of him, right? Like trying to throw him off his game. It didn't work, unfortunately for them. But yeah, I thought that was a good touch too.
Yeah, the NBA
I thought that was really cool how they just got right into it. And they're like, look, everybody knows this is Klay's return game. Let's make it special. It's not an elephant in the room situation per se, but how can you ignore it? How can you make Klay Thompson wait even 6 minutes till the first time out for his tribute video? So I think everybody was excited that the evening kicked off like that.
Yeah. So right out of the gate, man, let's get to the basketball game because this felt like a weighty matchup. Number one, it's an NBA Cup game, and it does seem like from the overall tenor of the night that people are actually taking it seriously. That's great. But Draymond Green in particular tends to get up for games like this, national TV, Klay Thompson coming back. And guys, look, he is one of the greatest defenders ever. I think he's the greatest defender of his generation. And tonight, he looked like 2016 Draymond. I just, I made this joke that he had 2 spin bikes in the sauna all summer, Trey Kerby. He was just doing extra time, buddy.
Draymond was 100% locked in tonight. You could tell this was a special game for him. You could tell it was a special game for Klay. It literally felt at times like these three were brothers finally getting a chance to prove themselves against each other. And man, you're totally right about Draymond. He was a takeover defensive player, I thought, in the fourth quarter. I was feeling bad for Daniel Gafford at times there. The ball just kept finding him with Draymond in a position to make a play. Sometimes it was taking a charge. He had the nasty block at the rim as well. And then every time he made a basket, he instantly found Klay Thompson, whether it was on the court, whether it was on the bench, and he was ready to stare him down and said, hey, man, I can shoot too. You may have forgotten, but I made some shots back in the day. He brought it. Steph brought it. Klay brought it. Luka brought it. Kyrie brought it. Like, this was just the perfect game for a November 12th matchup. You got to respect the cup. And both teams came out and they put it on their backs tonight.
Man, Steph, I mean, sometimes when you watch, it's a surreal experience, right? It's like this out of body experience that you watch and play basketball. He had 12 points in that fourth quarter and just went nuclear. And there's nothing like it. There really is nothing like watching Steph Curry do that. From your vantage point, how did that look watching it all unfold, him hitting the shot, the night, all of it.
Yeah, it was kind of an up and down game for Steph, I thought, until the end of the fourth quarter. Like, he had 25 through 3, but then didn't score until those last 5 minutes. He was missing layups that you would think are easy ones for Steph Curry. Even missed a free throw at one point, but then when it came down to it, when the Warriors really needed shots, 10 straight, hitting impossible shots. And then when he finally hit the one to put him over the hump, the real dagger before Quentin Grimes made it interesting there at the end.
Yeah.
The celebration was insane. Not only was he going for the signature night, of course, he was popping the Golden State for probably a minute straight. I think he earned it saying, I built this place. Yeah, Klay, you were awesome too, buddy. But I'm still here, and I ain't going anywhere.
You know, for all the talk about, and we just said Draymond was emotional, and we were talking about Klay maybe being emotional. I think Steph Curry was the most emotional guy of the three in this entire game, including, you mentioned the missed free throw. It was right after he had gotten an and one and made this acrobatic kind of over the back of his head, over his shoulder shot on Klay Thompson. He makes this shot, and then he's kind of, goofing off in the way you do if you score on your buddy. He's trying to make eye contact with him. He's looking around, guys, and then he misses the free throw. I think he was so worked up, and we never see that from Steph. This is a little bit of a continuation and carryover from Team USA. You know what I mean? Like, we saw him kind of wearing his emotions a little bit more on his sleeve, I thought. But are you with me on this Warriors team, Trey? Like, I think that this Warriors team has some special vibes to it.
Are you buying stock?
And I'm going to tell you, look, we're going to go look through this box score, and you'll see that Luka and the gang, they did really, really well against this bench because the bench can't score. But when Steph Curry's out there, they were plus 24 in a game that they only won by 4. I mean, this team has something. They just need maybe one more guy.
Exactly. They need one more guy. We heard all the stories during the summer about the other stars they were pursuing. They ended up going the strength in numbers route instead. And like you're saying, Dave, as long as Steph is on the court, this is a team that can beat literally anybody. There were obviously issues, especially in the second quarter, I thought, when they went to the bench, and they just don't necessarily have somebody who's creating advantages the way Steph is. But he also can make up basically any deficit, it feels like. And I'm sure if you're in the Warriors locker room, you're thinking as soon as 30 checks in, we're good.
Man,
I mean, that's worked out pretty well for them over the last few years. Go and check out Trey Kerby over at No Dunks. They come on right after us on your podcast app. I think that it works that way, right? It's just like TV. Coming up after the break, me and Es, we're going to dig in a little bit more on the NBA Cup opening night, especially Joel Embiid's comeback. Joel Embiid made his much anticipated season debut for the NBA Cup's opening night for the Sixers. As it wasn't great. Did not go all that well. The Knicks, I think they handily beat the Sixers. They had this game in hand. They won it 111-99, but Embiid is the big story. Physically, I think he looked about the way you would expect a guy to look who's coming off injury, who had no training camp. He looked beat. He did not shoot the ball well. In this game, he was only 2 of 11, only had 3 rebounds, wasn't super active. Honestly, they didn't do a lot with him. He did shoot a bunch of free throws. It is Joel Embiid, so that part of his game, he's in, regular season form there. That's right. But what did you think about Embiid? I mean, aside from him just like kind of moving slow and looking rusty, what did you think about him overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think that slowness actually, you mentioned the offensive stuff, but I noticed it on defense a lot too. Just was not crisp in his rotations, was not really effective as a guy who was kind of protecting the paint for them. I mean, the Knicks just dominated inside all game, right? And I think part of that is the Embiid equation, right?
Yeah, came out attacking him.
Yeah, exactly. They just went at him. They were more physical, especially at the start of the game. Like Karl Anthony Towns really set the tone physically with him to be like, hey, you're not going to get easy stuff here offensively. You're not going to get easy looks in the post. You're not going to get easy shots over me. And I think that had a trickle down effect for the rest of the game with Embiid. That being said, you and Zena mentioned it yesterday, but like giving grace to the fact that he hasn't played for over a month. And he just looked exactly how you would expect him, which is exhausted. I don't know how much grace I want to give, because if you're ready to play, you got to play.
That's right. You need to be able to play.
But he did look as rusty as he could possibly be in this game.
Yeah, the Sixers dropped to 2-8. Obviously, they've had injury issues all year. Tyrese Maxey's going to be out for a while. They started Kyle Lowry in place of Tyrese Maxey the last couple of games. I think that they got to make a little bit of a change there. Jared McCain came off the bench, gave him 30 minutes, closed the first half, was +3 in a game where no other player for the Sixers had a positive plus minus. Just gave him a little bit, gave him some legs. I think I'd like to see them put him in the starting lineup, move Kyle Lowry back to the bench role where you've got him. Number one, it allows your rotations to just stay a little bit more
sense.
Normal. And
Yeah.
that way, when Maxey comes back, you plug him right back into that starting lineup, and you at least have, he's not as good as Maxey, clearly, but it's someone who plays a little bit more that speed, at least, and that can help him out, especially while Embiid looks so slow. They just need someone out there who can run.
I hear you. And I think the thing that, if you were to vouch for McCain, is that he's so aggressive offensively compared to Lowry. Like Lowry at this point in his career, that's my guy, by the way. Like that is the Danny Green for me to you. You know what I mean? But he's a table setter at this point. He's not trying to look for his shot. He's not trying to be aggressive offensively. And especially with, by the way, Paul George had a really great game tonight.
Yeah, he did. He shot the ball really well. Yep.
Shot the ball well. Like this was the best PG game we've had since his return. I think with McCain and PG, you have that more offensive firepower next to Embiid as Embiid gets his legs under him. So that's like, I see the pitch there. I'm not going to go ahead and say him and McCain or Maxey and McCain can start forever, but giving McCain that opportunity while Maxey is out is probably the way to go. I like that.
The thing is, I think they're gonna have a Kelly Oubre decision to make in that starting lineup soon. And once Maxey's back, that's probably a decision they're gonna have to make. But right now, it's not great for the Sixers, and you just gotta hope. There's already talk that Joel may play this back-to-back because they've got a game tonight, Wednesday night. We'll see about that.
I would be surprised about that.
Seems kind of crazy if you're already dealing with a guy who's got some injury concerns. So who knows what's going to happen there? We'll keep you posted here on the show because we love a good failure story, don't we? Speaking of, what is going on with the Timberwolves? They lose their NBA Cup group play opening game to the Trailblazers of all teams, 122-108. And look, we can chalk this up to the Blazers hitting 18 threes.
Yeah.
Okay. We could chalk this up to the Timberwolves committing 21 turnovers. I mean, either of those things together or separate, we could say,
it's probably a combination of those,
both.
Realistically.
They've got some big time defensive problems, man. Their bench just can't seem to stop anybody or score. In this game, it was a rough night for them.
They haven't been pushing the right buttons. And by the way, like, I know overarching theme for the Timberwolves this season is Anthony Edwards and the 3-point volume, and that has all been fine and well. He took 10 threes tonight, made 4 of them. That's 40%. Cool. But I think elsewhere, finding the right kind of lineups that they're looking for is what I look for with the Minnesota Timberwolves. One guy that I'm curious about is Dante DiVincenzo, who obviously had an incredible season last year with the New York Knicks, but has just not been that same guy so far for Minnesota. He's shooting 32% on threes this season on 7.5 attempts, only averaging 10 points, shooting 36% from the field in general. That's a guy that I'm curious about in this Minnesota system, because the whole Cat Randall trade was about getting him to be this guy to play next to Anthony Edwards and shoot the lights out, stretch the floor offensively for them, really bolster their offense. But if he's not hitting his shots, if he's not making plays, then what purpose does Dante
he's not even getting shots up. That's an even bigger problem. In this game, he only gets up 3 attempts. And for a guy who's meant to provide some volume for them and space the floor, I mean, that's a big problem. And look, Naz Reid comes off the bench and gives him 28 points. Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's a point where it's just like 34 minutes. Is that enough for Naz Reid? Like, do you need 38 minutes of Naz Reid? There's a Mike Conley decision that I think the Timberwolves are going to have to make. Yeah. I had been thinking that maybe the lineup change would be putting DiVincenzo in with the starters and replacing
that's what
Conley.
I thought it would eventually happen. Yeah.
But to your point, he just hasn't been good enough to push the issue. And so, you start looking down the depth chart and it's like, well, they have to have Nickeil Alexander-Walker come off the bench because they need somebody who can guard a guy. And all of a sudden, this team that felt so deep last year, it's just, how many guys do they have that you can trust right now, S?
Man. I mean, I still... Okay, Rudy, right? Ant... and then Naz Reid, and I'm going to take Randall in there. Especially in the regular season. I'm taking Randall as the 4. But that's about it. Really.
Jaden McDaniels having a tough start to season. I mean, and look, this is the growing pains that you're going to deal with a young team, and especially one that makes. This was a sea change trade. This wasn't just like they weren't trading like the 9th guy on their team. They were really restructuring the entire thing. So I don't know though. I expected better than this.
You know, we didn't really mention the Knicks earlier with the Sixers. I think both of them are dealing with a bit of an identity crisis right now, where both teams are trying to figure out life with their new players. And part of that is incorporating them and pushing the right buttons and like finding the right lineup changes. And part of them is like throwing away the identity they had beforehand and be like, this is the new reality we have with Karl Anthony Towns, with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. How are we going to make this work? That's on the coaching staff ultimately. But yeah, I think both of these teams are sort of struggling through that early in the season.
That's a great point. Stick with us after the break, guys. We're going to go through some of the other crazy stuff that happened in the NBA Cup. So the NBA sort of kicked our day off with a curveball, or a new basketball, I should say. They actually made and you saw this, right? I sent it over to the group chat. A new ball for the NBA Cup, and apparently they did get this one approved by the players first, so that's good. Right. And no one was complaining. I mean, if you look at the shooting percentages, weren't a lot of bricks being shot. They did ask some of the players and coaches because we love a good controversy, but nobody seemed to care. So congratulations to the NBA. You didn't mess the ball up. The other thing that stands out to me about opening night of the NBA Cup is I forgot about the courts, and just
how could you forget about
single time you changed the channel. I put on that multi-view and it looked like I was shopping for new paint. It was like paint palette colors on my TV screen. You
know the meme of Jerry Seinfeld, and he's looking at Kramer's room and he's like, "What's happening in there?" It's the NBA Cup, Jerry.
That was it. He was watching Detroit tonight.
Exactly. Yeah. Look, I think the blue was bad. There was a lot of blue games tonight. But the one court that was absolutely terrible, and I'm sorry to say this, but the Boston Celtics green hurt my eyes. I'm wearing glasses on this segment right now to illustrate the point. It was terrible. Never put lime green or any sort of green on a court, please.
I just need to see the Photoshops that come out of this. And I did think it was a nice touch by the Warriors to make their court the Mavs colors to honor Klay Thompson's return. That was a great choice. So a bunch of stuff happened tonight. So I thought we would play a fun little trivia game. Super producer Andrew Schlecht helped me out, wrote some questions here. Who am I? That's the game. I'm going to read some stuff. You're going to say who the player is that did this. You watch as much basketball as I do. You should know all these. Let's see if you can answer them. This player in the opening night of the NBA Cup had a career high in points tonight in a win.
In a win. Oh, in a win. Was it Franz Wagner?
That is incorrect. It was Dyson Daniels with 28 points. He was excellent in this game. This guy is on just, can you be on a heater for steals? Is that like, are you on a 3 games robbery in a row? Spree? Is that a robbery spree? Is that what we've got?
Yeah, it's like swipe or no swiping with the Dora Explorer thing. Look, 3 games in a row with 6+ steals. That was the stat that was kind of in my head for Dyson Daniels. Put that man in pen for an all defense.
And he made he made some plays down the stretch, some steals, scored some buckets that were just tough shots to win this game. He did miss what would have been the go-ahead floater, but luckily he's got tall teammates that were able to tap that in.
Yeah, but 26 extra shots for the Hawks over the Celtics because of that rebounding, which is
I mean, listen, the Celtics, that didn't happen often. This is also one of the few times where the Celtics shoot over 38% from 3, their opponent didn't, and they lost. That just doesn't happen very often in the Missoula Ball era. Here's the next question. This coach called a timeout with 1 second left on the clock with a tie game. He had no fouls left, no timeouts left, and that gives the opposing team a game-winning free throw and the ball. Which coach was that tonight?
I'm so sorry, Mr. Eric Spoelstra. I'm sorry, man. Look, I think he's the best coach in the NBA, but man, that was a rough one. That was the biggest blunder probably of his entire career. And he was really mad about it post game too.
Yeah,
like,
shout out to him though. You know what?
Yeah.
Look, that's hard, man. Like coaching basketball is tough. You're paying attention to a lot of things, and it's not as hard as a lot of jobs, but there's a lot going on right there. And this guy at the press conference, man, I'm a little bit worried about Eric
Owned up
Spoelstra.
to him.
He looked exhausted, but straight up owned up to it. Talked about how he feels like he robbed his players of a chance. And I'm putting a pin in this moment for the Miami Heat because I think we're about to see what it looks like when Eric Spoelstra locks in on the regular season.
I like it.
And maybe we're going to see some wild stuff. He is the best coach in the sport. So expect a big bounce back from Eric Spoelstra.
Crazy game in general. Like Tyler
really
Hero
was.
went off to bring them back
Tim Hardaway
into it.
Jr. took a really hard fall, had to leave the game. He had to be wheeled off the court. So, hopefully
Seems like he's okay though.
Apparently
we got an update that there's no CT scan came negative and all that stuff. So
he came back negative for, I think, an injury. Did not come negative in there was nothing on it, which is also good news for Tim Hardaway Jr. Okay, last question before we get out of here. This player had 19 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks off the bench in a win. And this was the second game he's played in the last 369 days.
I know it. Robert Williams.
Insane. This guy might be the best player on the Trailblazers. It's so
Lord, man.
It's easy to forget because of the way that injuries have just affected his career the last few years. But he is such a talented player, and I have to start wondering if one of these teams that needs a big, hey, what would he look like next to Zion down in New Orleans? Yeah. What would he look like in any of these teams? New York. There you go.
Yeah. I agree. Look, Rob Will has had a lot of injuries, especially lower body injuries that have limited his time. I think one of the questions I have is like, can he keep this up? Because when he's on the court, he's extremely effective, very, very versatile big. But I mean, I'm lucky. I enjoy the fact that this Blazers team is having fun out there and being really, really competitive in these games. Scoot Henderson is playing better basketball.
Yeah.
They're fun, man.
A little bit of Nets West with them, where they've got a lot of really good pieces that are probably better elsewhere. But hey, they're playing hard and they're fun. That's going to do it for today's show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Es Baraheni, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.